Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Rob Tatro, the host of The Running Journey. Today, my brother Charlie is not here. I have two very special guests. They helped forge who I am today, none other than my parents, Claude Annette Tatro. Very, very happy and honored to have them here. We've talked about them. Charlie and I have talked about them a lot on this podcast. We've talked about how inspired we've been by them throughout our whole lives. And I take a sec here to acknowledge that they were a big driving force in us being fit, healthy, active kids and active adults. So welcome, Claude. Welcome, Annette.
Glad to be here.
All right. Good to be here. So the reason we're recording this episode today is a bit of a two reasons. First off, I just came back from New Brunswick. I ran across New Brunswick. I did run with Rob across New Brunswick. You guys were there every single step of the day. Of every day, every single step of the journey and every day. You also did it last year. So I wanted your take on how it went. And then I also might ask you a couple questions about kind of running generally. You guys have both been very active. Mom, I think you're probably the most active woman your age that I can think of. Anyways, I don't know anyone else who's done what you've done over the last... When did you start your fitness craze? Craze might not be the right word, but it was later in life, wasn't it?
Well, I was always active in sports when I was young, from like 10 years old, but more weightlifting and strength training and running probably about 15 years ago with Tanya.
Yes. So Tanya was doing CrossFit and then you guys ended up buying or partnering on a business, CrossFit Winnipeg. And you and I started going back when I did my MBA in 2007-8. Around that time, you and I started going to the gym every day together. You'd pick me up. I wouldn't go if I didn't get picked up. So you're like, I'll go pick him up. You would come pick me up and we'd go work out at the gym together. We would do like these high intensity workouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of started me down I remember that summer before I tried to do a marathon and I did a 5 hours and 58. So I was not in shape. Claude, for you, you've been running on and off for most of your life. You did a half marathon last year, which was probably the most inspiring thing I've ever seen. One of the most inspiring things I've ever seen with my own eyes. You were stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, fresh out of chemo, and you came out and you did a half marathon with me to raise money for charity. And then I don't know how many ultras you've done. I want to say 3 or 4. Am I close?
Yeah, 3.
3.
Three
and
and
then
a
you 3.5. Yeah, you quit the first one.
First time.
As an 11-year-old or 12?
My first son was 11 years old.
Yeah, so 50 milers back then. I want to get to, maybe this is a whole other episode, but just very briefly, you did 3 ultras, failed one. Then you've done marathons. I don't know, 3 or 4 marathons?
3 Manitoba marathons.
3 Manitoba marathons. You've never been a guy who's done halves. I bet you that was your first ever half last year.
Yeah, that was my first half.
Because you probably think people who do halves are losers.
I'm not gonna do them.
Yeah, I can tell you. I just did 26 of those halves, and they're tough. They're not easy. And I saw a lot of people struggle mightily. People who've trained and over the last 2 years, I've probably seen 200. Probably run with about 200 people in my 2 Run with Rob editions, and they're not easy. Half marathons are not easy. So you trained last year and you did a half marathon. You guys both also helped me this year. So I'll get back to running later if we have time. But for now, I kind of want to just maybe, Mom, what was your general take on Run with Rob this year? How did you think it went overall? We're just back home now. How do you feel now, today, maybe? We're 3-4 days out. How do you feel? You must be tired as heck.
Yeah, so no, actually, compared to last year, like this year, 2 days recuperated. My sleep is back to normal. Everything great.
Even with the travel.
Year, yeah, even, the flight back and everything is back to normal. Last year, at least a week for me to recuperate from 6 a.m. to 9 at night every day, and then you just go to bed and you do it all over. Completely different with the 2 legs back to back.
Okay, so this year you're fresher than you were last year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I remember feeling bad towards the end last year because I was like, "Okay, you guys don't have to do this. Take a day off," and those were long days last year for running.
But for you as well, I think.
Yeah, Yeah, for me as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, yeah, you're only
no, no,
running.
no,
One,
no,
right?
no. But you're right. It was a long day for me. We'll get to that in a sec.
Okay.
Claude, how are you feeling today? You probably had stuff to do as well over the weekend, I would imagine.
Well, I was gone for 3 weeks, and I've got quite a little hobby place out there that needs supposed to be doing the work every 7 days at least, and it's been 21 days, so been catching up. But I'm going to echo what Annette said. Uh, I mean, they were the same. You ran the same distance, and 2 a day, and we did the same things. But the fact that instead of getting home at 9 o'clock at night, from 7 in the morning to 9 at night, even though there was many breaks in between, doing all in one shot, like 7, then we're back home at 1:30, then lots of time to recuperate, uh, made it so much easier. Even though we weren't running, it was so much easier for, and Annette and I have talked about it, and the others. It was so much easier this year. And the fact that it was easier for you, was so much better.
Yeah, and I think the schedule itself led us to. Would you say, Mama, that it was a more enjoyable experience? Would you go that far this year?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe
No
take
question.
take us through your role as kind of lead volunteers for this, kind of what you guys did, maybe during the race, before, during, and after the race. What were your roles during this,
Do you
Mama?
want me to go first?
Yeah, Mama.
Okay, so before each run, I had my brother, especially my brother, would be helping me out, and we would be
Uncle
determining
Mo.
where you,
Uncle Mo.
Uncle Mo, where you would be running. Claude was more in charge of running the RV and seeing where he would be following you, but we were in charge of setting up spots where we could reach the runners. Okay, so this is where we left off the day before. This is where we start. What's the route look like? Where are we going? Is it a trail run? Are we running on a highway? How much stuff do we need for this runner? And just evaluating and asking before each run what that runner wants for hydration, what he wants for nutrition, and basically how he's feeling and all that, making sure we know what the runners want.
It's pretty cool to have your own personal volunteer crew, making sure you had whatever you needed, gels, carbs, liquid hydration, Gatorade, whatever, Band-Aids, whatever we needed. We had a moving aid station at any and all times. So we would talk, we'd go, okay, today I'm with a runner who wants to do a speed. So less aid stations, further apart, and like it's going to be fast. So that means, kind of, we're not going to be stopping and chit chatting. We're just going to grab the water and keep going. Or today it's a slow ride. We're going to enjoy it. We're just going to, and then we could stop and chat. It was pretty unbelievable when I told Jax, were you there when Cross Canada Jax was saying how like, I don't want to say, I think he might've said easier or different my run is than his, right? He's like, wow, you have an unbelievable crew here. They're taking care of you pretty good here. And I had it pretty easy, and I'm openly admitting it that I had probably the easiest job out of everyone. Claude, you were more in charge of the RV and morning logistics and kind of basically making sure the RV followed the runners, make sure the runners weren't getting hit by cars.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I had a different role last year because we had you had Diego and another guy taking care of the RV, and Ed and I were driving the 4x4. But the big difference last year, on many legs, we had like 4, 5, 6, 7 people. And we were busier because we'd go to one and bring the water to the second group, third group, and then go back to the front group because it was in the heat last year. And so you guys needed water. And so it was busier, but the time went by quicker. This year, I was fired from that job by my Uncle Mo. And so my Uncle Mo replaced me with his sister Annette, and I was driving the RV, and it was a different kind of. I actually prefer driving in the in the car, delivering the drinks, because the RV was it's hard to turn around, finding spots that we could handle spots, or if you guys needed to go to the washroom, you'd come in the RV. And we drove about half, I'd say, New Brunswick on narrow roads where it was very, very hard to stop safely. We could stop, but without blocking traffic and that. So it was a different experience. I really enjoyed it. And I felt more tired at the end of every day than I did last year.
More tired?
More tired because of, the RV on roads and pulling on the shoulder and safely and turning around on roads and that kind of stuff. And the safety issue, because last year on TransCanada, anyways, I felt that it was a lot safer for you guys because, there was a wide shoulder. RV was right, behind you at all times. And, somebody was giving you water. So I thought you were never in, safe, you were safe, I felt. Whereas this year, I felt a lot of times that you were unsafe,
Wait, which times? Which times did you feel we were unsafe? Because the first 7 days were on a trail.
Well, not the trails, obviously.
Okay.
But, when we're not on Highway number 2, which is the 4-lane TransCanada, for those who are not familiar with New Brunswick, but about half the time we were also on a paved road, but only 2 lanes and almost no shoulder. Those were the more.
I can only think of that day in Fredericton with Michelle and that day I ran solo, right?
Maybe there's only one day. It felt like many days, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. Anytime I wasn't on the 2, certainly I was running on the wrong side of the highway against traffic.
Yeah.
And there were some day, like that day I ran by myself on the marathon day. It was
the day before as well, before the last day.
Yeah.
Oh, and the second last day when I ran. Yeah, through Dieppe there and through Memramcook. Yeah, those 2 spots for sure were.
But overall, it was easier this year than last year.
Okay. Okay, so I want to ask you guys about kind of the most inspiring thing you saw, or the most the coolest. Well, did you have a favorite leg? Did either of you have a favorite leg before I get to the runner? Just
in what
favorite,
sense?
I don't know. Anything stick out? A leg stuck out to you for any reason, whether it was the beauty of it, or whether it was the scenery, or whether it was something you saw. Did any leg kind of mean anything specific to you?
Well, for me, actually, it was more than one leg. So,
and remember, before Mom finishes here, I did 26 legs over 13 days, so 2 half marathons per day. And for those that don't know, I was doing one at 8 a.m. and one at roughly 11 a.m. every day. So I was generally taking roughly a half-hour break. I actually checked my stats, and I put it on a spreadsheet, and I averaged about 40-minute break, with the quickest ones being about 20 minutes and the longest being about an hour. And anywhere in between there, I would break. So you said you had a specific area that was...
Yeah, so for me, it was the 3 first days where my 3 nephews flew out and joined you. It was awesome to have them there.
Those were awesome days. Yeah, it meant enough to them that, and I mean, we did podcast episodes with them. So those of you that are listening to this podcast, I'm guessing you've listened to the other, but if you haven't, go listen to the episode with Paul and Francois, and go listen to the episode with Mini Grains. Those were special days for sure. I had nobody to run because it was in the middle of nowhere in Edmundston. And if those of you that don't know, northwestern New Brunswick is not the most accessible area. Like, you're 6 hours from Halifax. No, what is it? 7 hours from Halifax, or you're 6 hours from Montreal. And there's no real way to get there. I mean, you can fly to St. John, but even St. John is what, 3.5 hours or something? Or sorry, Fredericton is 3 hours. So those guys came out to support those 3 brothers. Paul was texting me all weekend, sending me his jogs. Joe and Paul actually went out for a jog this weekend, and they're those guys have found a bug for jogging for sure. So those were special days for you, Mom?
Yeah, and on top of that, those were trail runs, and so they were so awesome to just try and catch you always on the trails. They were beautiful, beautiful trails, and it was just beautiful out there. So.
And those guys are funny, and they bring a lot of life to the dinner and to the hanging outs, right? Those guys are fun to hang out with. Claude, how about you? I'm sure you'll probably echo the same statement.
As far as scenery, I echo the second, third, fourth day kind of thing, trail ride by the river, and it was just gorgeous, rolling hills, mountains, and it was beautiful.
It
And as
actually
far
went all the way to, sorry to interrupt, but it actually went all the way to pretty much Fredericton. We had riverside
yeah,
jogging all the
yeah,
way to Fredericton, which is like the first 8 days.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just beautiful. We'd get to the point to where the road would intersect you, and we stood there and took in the beauty of the nature, and it seemed there was always someone that came and saw us and said, they saw around with Rob right on the car or on the motorhome, and I remember the gentleman, I forget his name already, but the fiddlesticks and
The
not
first day?
fiddlestick. That was about day 5 or 6. Anyways, and they'd chat and they'd ask, and that was a lot of fun. But to come back to the Annette basically stole my thunder, because I was going to say the 3 nephews, Joël, Paul, and Francois, that was pretty inspirational. And I don't want to favor one brother over the other 2, but
But here we go. I'm gonna favor one.
but I thought that poor Joël, I felt more for Joël, because I felt that you kind of ambushed him, in the sense that he came for one leg on no training, no preparation, at the last minute, and
Okay, but
he did it by himself. He's not a baby.
I don't appreciate this connotation that I somehow forced someone to do something they didn't want to do.
Well,
that didn't happen. I told him not to come. I want this story to be clear, though. I told Joe not to come. I told him not to come. I told him you haven't trained. I told him it's 2 days before the flight. It's going to be $1 million flight, and like, makes no sense. You got your farm to. And he said, just let me come. He refused to not allow me, and he said, I'm coming to do one leg. And he's the one who decided he was going to do the second leg. So just to be very clear.
Sure. I agree that you didn't force him or anything, but he just, anyways, that's pretty inspirational, and he did it. And then, and later in the run, also Marlene.
Marlene was pretty inspiring.
She did her. She thought she was doing it at 4, and she thought she'd get a break. She didn't get a break, but she did it, and she worked really hard, and that was pretty inspirational too.
Yeah, and she cares. Obviously, she flew in,
and not to shortchange all the others. Derek and Diego, and
James and
Louis Cormier.
Louis Cormier. Yeah, there was a lot of them. JP and Jean. Those guys did. Those guys are not runners, right?
Yeah, everybody who did it was basically an inspiration, and it was something else. It's I don't know how to describe it, but quite an inspiration.
Yeah, you guys would have met way more people than I did, because there were many times when I'd jog by and you guys were chit-chatting with someone on the side of the road. You'd be like, hey, this person saw you on Facebook or whatever. And I was like, okay. And I would just keep going, and you guys were chatting them up, because I remember the 2 ladies on the second last day. I remember the young kid. I remember some people early on that you met. So you guys actually met way more people than I did, actually, as it turns out, right? Because you would meet people. You met the family of Jackson's grandparents.
I would say that, maybe Annette can correct me, but the people like early in the race that were following you on Facebook or on social media, because they had an interest, either family member at CMV or something like that. They were looking out for you, and when they saw that motorhome, they all came to the road and started chatting. But there was more people that they saw us with the vests, and they saw the motorhome, and they just came out of their houses and close by the road and said,
what's going on?
What's happening, and CMV, and then most of these people at the end gave us $20 or $50, and so it was a lot of fun.
Okay. So I was trying to think of like the most beautiful spot that I saw, probably the falls in Grand Falls, or maybe the covered bridge in Heartland, or maybe Yeah, the one of the many rivers, bridges that crosses the rivers. Like, how many bridges do you think I crossed? If you had to
I
guess.
don't
I'd
If-
say
15?
7 or 8 at least.
No, more than that.
No, yeah, I'd say like 15, 20, something. It was
That's what I
Yeah,
just
was.
a lot of bridges. We ran several on one leg. On the
yeah.
Fredericton half marathon, that one marathon, I think I ran across 6, but you guys didn't see those. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun. So how about you guys taking this all in? So the event raised $200,000 for CMV. We dropped off a petition that had, I think, 3,500 signatures to the legislature. We accepted a check from charities. I think I did something like 8 media interviews while I was down there. So do you guys have thoughts or comments about that? Mama?
Well, I think we did get a lot of attention from the media, and
It's
well,
tough,
what I'm
though.
hoping is that it will build on itself. Like
Yeah.
it will just create some momentum and maybe escalate it a lot faster than it would have if it would have just been done on its own. And I guess that's what we hope for, is that they do change the legislation, and that eventually we do get the testing done in New Brunswick. We're certainly hoping that that's the outcome.
Yep. I want to ask you guys about Claude. I'll ask you. This is more of a mom question. Last year, you worked hard, tirelessly, almost every day on my feet. This
Yeah.
year, how do you think my body held up? My body.
Well, that was unreal, right?
Yeah,
The
it
feet,
was.
anyways.
Yeah, 0 blisters.
So-
I did 550 kilometers, 0 blisters.
But I guess, yeah, I was still worried about you, like a mom is, about the knee, because I knew the knee was hurting you. I could tell it was hurting you. But I think you were watching it. I think you know your body pretty well. And if it would have been, really, really bad, you would have either gotten, I don't know. I think you would have still finished it, walked it,
I would have
whatever you
walked
needed
it.
to do.
I would have walked
Yeah.
it. No, I had a game plan. So my knee started acting up the morning of the Saturday morning in Fredericton when I ran with my family. It was acting up that morning. First time I felt it, and I know why. I'm pretty sure it's because the road was the curves were so, not the curves, the shoulders were so angled,
Slanted. Yeah.
so slanted, and I was running on the shoulder, and then I was like, I can't do this. And then it kind of, I felt just a little tinge in the side of my knee because it was so slanted that it was hard. And then I had to run on the road. So I would have, for sure, I had a game plan, Mom. As it was getting worse and worse, I would have walked. Like, that was my next plan. I said, okay, if I can't do this, I'm just going to walk. And every time I would start running, I would say, all right, if this is the time that I can't run, I'll walk. That's okay. Pretty sure I could have walked. I could walk it in 3 hours. So
Yeah. I guess if you could have also, was it better when you were running on the opposite side of the road with the slant on the other side?
it didn't
matter?
It was worse on that side. I needed
Oh,
to
it
be
was
on
worse?
the right. Yeah, I needed to be on the right side. Because
Okay.
that's when I got hurt, when I was running on the wrong side of the road with Michelle and Alexandre
Oh, okay. All right.
on
Okay.
that morning leg on that Saturday.
Okay.
But I mean, the knee, Charlie, I was listening to the podcast with with Charlie last year, and he said after we recorded, he said, injuries. He says, I've run thousands of kilometers with injuries. You could always push through injuries. It was funny to hear him say that, and that's what I was thinking when I was running. It's just I'll get over this. It's not a big deal. I will get through this. But I was not gonna let myself get injured to the point of never running again. Like, I don't want that. Obviously, I like running too much. Claude, go ahead.
Well, I thought, like, last year, I remember leading up to it, I kept saying, this is crazy. It cannot be done. Like, it's fine. You think you're going to do it and all this, but your body will wear down, because I'd run marathons, and I could have never think of doing a marathon the next day, or within 2 or 3 days, or within a week. And I know I was in shape like you are, but I really thought, like, I didn't think you'd even make it last year. And then, when you start having blisters on day 4, and Annette had to massage your legs and, whatever, all that stuff, and Band-Aids. And, I was more stressed at that point. I said, this is impossible. Like, he's going to kill himself kind of thing as a father. This year, I never felt that way because, I saw you run Ironmans. I saw you run, what do you call that? The 50-mile runs. And, I saw you go play golf after a lot of these things. And so, a man doesn't go play golf after a 50-mile run normally. Normal people don't. Well, first of all, normal people don't run 50 miles. And then on top of that, they don't go golfing after. So I knew you were like, I'd say 5 times in better shape this year than last year. Maybe not 5, but certainly lots more in good shape. But having said all that, I really got scared on the Saturday or Sunday when you were limping on your knee there. And, if your knee gives out, like you can't run. And I remember telling you, look, don't run the Fredericton Marathon. It's not part of this running across New Brunswick. Like save yourself. This is when you were really in pain, and you went out and ran it. And I thought that was so stupid of you. And I was worried then. I was really worried then.
Yeah, no, I knew I could handle
But-
it. And I wanted to do it. It was sorry, go ahead, Ma.
Yeah, so yeah, I echo what Claude said. Last year, from the first day, I started doubting if you would make it.
Day one, I had
Day
really bad
one, your
blisters.
feet were so bad.
Yeah.
And throughout this one, there was never a day that I said, no, he won't make it. I knew you'd make it.
Yeah,
There was
like, did you ever actually think I wouldn't make it, Claude? Like on
No,
0 to
not
10?
this time, no. But last year, yes, every day from day one, your feet were so bad.
Yeah, I think feet are different than. Do you think feet are different than knees and or like ankles? Like my ankle was really, really sore. Remember, like I had a few days there where my ankle would swell, and I would just kind of iced it. And I thought last year I thought blisters, like, who cares blisters? You can always run through blisters. I mean, that's how I felt, and I know that's not true because some people that are listening are telling me that they had to quit a race because of blisters. I know for sure.
But Robert, I had seen you say, okay, I had seen you do it last year. Then I had seen you do 3 Ironmans. And then I felt that you were such in great shape. There'd be no doubt that you would make it unless a major injury on a major part of your body that would prevent you to run.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't feel like I was gonna. I mean, I was a little. I never thought, oh my God, what if I can't finish this? I just said, okay, well, I won't be able to go fast. I'll have to go slow, or I'll have to walk it. But yeah, there was no doubting it for me. There was 0 doubt in my mind the whole way. I knew I would do it. I just knew 100% I would do it. So I don't know, but I mean, I felt that way last year too, and I was not in as good shape last year. I think I have this false belief in myself, perhaps. Maybe I think I'm invincible, or I think I obviously I think I can do whatever I set my mind to, for good or for worse. And I brought that approach to this, but like I honestly didn't ever feel like I wouldn't finish this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. What do you guys think my average heart rate was for the whole thing?
Well,
remember, I did some 144s, and I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I did 5 sub 2s. Last year I only did 2. I did 5 sub 2s this year. So it was way, way, way faster than last year this year.
Mm-hmm.
I still
and back to back.
I would guess that your average would be probably, it should be way higher, but you're in good shape. I would say 138.
I would say 142 maybe.
It was 125.
125?
Yeah.
Were you walking?
No, but I
Were you sleeping?
yeah, it was and my average time wasn't great. It was 2:17. Well, I mean, that's pretty good. 2:17. It's because there were some slow ones in there, right? Like we had to
Oh yeah,
walk
okay.
with,
Oh
but
yeah.
I had none in the 3 hours. Like my slowest was, I think, 2:54.
Hmm.
So everything was, but everything was kind of around there. So
And
uh,
you had what, 2 or 3 sub two,
five. I had five sub twos.
5 sub 2s?
Yeah. I did Francois. Then I did Joe Rosengarten. That was a fun day too. Then I did James. Then I did my Fredericton. And then I did Derek.
Yeah.
And those
Hmm.
the what I noticed about myself is the ones where I pushed for sub two were way more fun for me because I get emotionally invested in the person I'm running with and I wanted them to do it and I'm pacing and I have a responsibility and we have to focus on our pace and there's a hill coming up. How much do I slow down? His heart rate's at 170. We should probably, like with Derek, it was like Derek, I wasn't worried that he wouldn't, I was worried that, anyways, I was a little worried that he wouldn't be able to do it because of the hills. There was a lot of hills. Now he's strong mentally. He's very strong mentally, but I mean, he hadn't trained that much. So I was like, if your heart is not used to it, your heart just can't do it, right? Like you just can't run that fast for that long, right? And then his heart rate at mile 6 or 7 started, it hit like 175 at mile 6 or 7. And I was like, well, this is not going to happen. Like there's no way. But that was a big hill. So we had another hill coming up. So I said, we're gonna lose 30 seconds on this hill. We're gonna do it at 9. We're gonna do a slow mile, and I need your heart rate to come down. And then it came down to 163 or whatever. And then we were kind of okay for the last 4 or 5 miles. But that was so fun for me. I enjoyed doing that.
The hills?
I enjoyed pacing.
Oh, because the hills were definitely
No,
not
I did not
enjoyable.
enjoy the hills. No.
Like I've never seen so many hills in my life.
Yeah,
Like
10,000 feet of elevation, which I mean might not feel like that much, but it's a third of Mount Everest.
And on that point, Robin, we did last year Manitoba, and I remember complaining after running through Brandon, thinking, oh my God, all these hills, it's the end of the world. And this year in New Brunswick, I don't think there was a leg that had at least 10 times more hills than the leg in Manitoba that had hills. It was a totally different terrain, and it was so much more difficult for everybody. So the New Brunswick race to me, if I was a runner, I don't know if it's twice as hard or 1.5 times as hard. Maybe you can tell us. But I certainly felt that it was at least twice as hard as Manitoba.
Yeah. Now, what I say, the elevation was, Charlie said, like you can feel your power output. So to do the same mile with, let's say, 100 feet of hills, like that's costing you 30 seconds. So you're either going to do it slower or to do it at the same speed, you need to exert yourself more, which means you're tired, means your heart's pumping more, your legs are tired. So it's a constant burn. It's a constant burn every time you have a hill, right? You're either going like, and I had to do a lot of them, but I wasn't pushing hard. But the people that I was running with, they hadn't trained for this. They weren't, so like for them to do, imagine you're only doing 13 miles and you have to do one of them like a minute faster than all the other ones because there's a hill is the equivalent, right? That's not easy. So they struggled and it was very hard for them and it was hard for me too. But what I just said, and I took Charlie's advice, it's kind of like going up a hill on a bike. You just, you know what? You're going to go slower next. Same output.
Or walk beside your bike.
thanks, Claude. So were you getting better at the hills at the end? It seems you were just pushing through them at the end. Easier.
I just thought they're there. What are you going to do? You can't like focus on what you can control. You can't control a hill. It's there. I have to run across. I have to run up it. At first I was like a little upset. I'd be like, oh, this hill is going to impact my time. And at the end I was like, this hill is there. I don't have a choice. I'm just going to run through it. I don't have a choice. It's there. What am I going to do? I have to run it next. So yes, I definitely had a change of attitude about the hills for sure.
What about physically? Was it getting, I know it was, the 10th, 11th, 12th day, but I mean, it seemed you were getting either used to the hills or the output was better. It seemed.
I don't know if I was, maybe it was mentally I was getting used to it. So my body was just okay with it kind of thing.
Okay.
It's I'm looking at like my second last leg. So my lowest, so we track our Charlie number. Charlie number is the amount of extra effort it takes a runner to do a mile. So whether it's, if your resting heart rate is 50 and you do it a 10-minute mile at 150, that's 100 beats times 10 minutes. That would be 1,000, a Charlie number of 1,000. So the lowest I ever got my Charlie number was in the 600s. And I had some races, I had some legs during this thing where remember, I did 26 marathons. So like your heart's working. So I thought I'd be in the 800s. I had one in the 600s. So like, I can't believe how low my heart rate was for all of this and how relatively easy these miles were on the cardio. Like it's no problem. It was no problem for me at all. My last day, I did a half marathon by myself in the second most elevation, and my average heart rate was 117 on that morning, on the last day there. When I ran by myself, those were big hills, 564 feet of elevation. Those were big, big hills. The third or fourth biggest hills of the whole thing. But anyways, yeah. So I don't know, maybe my body did get used to it, Mom. I don't know. You seem to think so. Maybe that did happen. I mean, I didn't blaze through that half marathon, but I still 11-minute miles, and it was no sweat. So, how about you guys? Do you have any? Okay, so I do want to recognize we're going long on time here. How do you guys have any last thoughts before I ask? I want to ask you guys something else after, but last thoughts about Run with Rob. What you thought? Anything else, Claude?
Well, I don't know what your last question is, but
I'm going to move to a different topic. I'm going to ask you about.
Okay. Well, then what I need to, if anybody's watching or whatever, is the highlight for me, and I think it is for Annette too, is it's such a wonderful world experience. The inspiration that you inspire so many people along the side of the road. Runners, people come from Winnipeg. Like they take 4 days off and they come and punish themselves. They're not used to running, and they do it all for the cause. They do it all for you. I saw it in Manitoba last year. It was amazing. And this year I thought it was even such an inspiration. It's hard to describe, but it's certainly one of the greatest experiences of my life.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for sharing that. Mama, do you have any last words on Run with Rob? Then I want to ask you guys about something else.
Well, I guess, it's always hard to see your son in pain and struggling.
I wasn't in pain. I wasn't struggling.
But you know what? You were so happy every single day that I said, well, this can't be, it's not that much suffering. I think he just loves this. And so you loving it makes everybody so happy to be joining you. So that was awesome.
Yeah, we were pretty, I keep thinking how lucky I am to do this. And I spoke to Charlie midway through, and he said, just make sure you appreciate every day because you're pretty lucky. You're pretty lucky, Rob. And I said, yeah, you're right. I am lucky. Yeah, I'm lucky. This is like a fantasy camp. Like I'm doing what I love doing with people I love. And every day it's the whole thing is like, it's set up so that I succeed in doing this goal. And everyone is working hard so that this goal happens. And I do consider myself lucky. And I wanted to appreciate that every single day. And what I loved, there's a lot of things that I loved. Obviously, I love the running, but I really enjoyed I'll call it the reminiscing time after, from like, call it, I don't know, 2:30 or 3 to like 6 or whatever, where we're either sitting on a deck or we're most of the times we're sitting on a deck. We had some nice places that we stayed at. And we're just enjoying, or Uncle Mo's playing the guitar, or Claude's telling a story, or whatever. We were just enjoying each other's company. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Just sharing company with other people that I enjoy being with. And no emails. And I did have some work to do, but it was largely, it was fun. It was the coolest thing I've ever done.
Other thing, thankful for, that I was thankful anyways, because it caused the blisters, I think.
The weather.
No rain.
Yeah, I didn't get one drop of rain. That's crazy when you think you're outside. I was outside 5 hours a day.
Before, but not when you were running. It would rain in the afternoon even sometimes.
Yeah, it
but
would rain like an hour after we were done sometimes. One day it came really close. It rained before
yeah.
it rained when we left the cottage, and then it stopped. Like
Mhm.
I didn't get rained on once. And you know what I did? I brought my old faithfuls. I didn't bring my Vapor Flies, my Alpha Flies, my carbon plated shoes. I brought just my shoes that I'd run the most miles in, and that had to do something with it too. Yeah, it was a roaring success for me in terms of that, right?
Yeah.
Healthy, no blisters, feel good, with good people, having fun every day, eating whatever the heck I wanted. I love eating, so that was fun. Um, I want to ask you guys so thank you for sharing on Run with Rob. And the viewers here and our fans have heard a lot about you guys. So what do you guys have next on your either running and or race supporting calendar? Do you guys have anything coming up that's interesting? Or are you guys volunteering for any events? You're probably volunteering for the CMB Canada half if you can, if you're available.
Yep. If I'm available, if I'm not getting a new hip,
Okay.
I will be. I will be volunteering. So
So you're getting a new hip, Mom. Have you set some? I mean, that would be tough to set some goals with a new hip because you have no idea what you're going to look like on the other side of that surgery, probably, right?
yeah, I want to run again.
You
So
want to run
that's
again.
the
Okay.
goal. Yep.
Have you thought
That's
of
the goal.
what you want to do or you just want to be able to run?
Just be able to run would be awesome. So that's why you should be thankful of
I
how
am
you can
thankful.
run now.
Yeah.
You never know what the future holds, right?
Yeah.
So be thankful.
I am thankful for that. And thanks for pointing that out. Yeah. Not everyone can run. And and I mean, I might just one day my hip or my knee or my ankle might just blow and that's it. I can't run anymore. Right. So I am appreciative of that. And that's why I go to all these races that I qualify for because
Mhm.
what if I never qualify for this race again? What if I can't run Boston Marathon again? I gotta go. So you're getting a new hip. You're focusing on that. You're hoping to run. Do they say there's a good chance you'll be able to run after that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, because you've had hip issues for a while. Like you used to run quite a bit,
Yep.
and then you just have to pretty much stop. A
Yeah.
lot
Now
of
it's
hip.
walking, but yeah.
Good. Maybe you'll do a half at some point.
Yes, I will.
Yes, you will. All right. So that is a goal then.
Mhm.
Okay. Claude, how
Yes.
about you? Do you have any goals of any kind
Yeah, I'm starting to practice because I'm going to run across Manitoba from north to south.
Okay.
Just joking.
Okay. I know you trained last year hard or somewhat hard, I guess, enough that you were able to complete a half marathon at 71 years old. So that's one of the most, I said it earlier, that's probably the most impressive thing I've seen in running. I'm trying to think fresh off a can. Like I can't think of anything more inspiring than that. So, I mean, I said this in the podcast, Claude. That was the hardest anyone had battled to finish their half marathon was you on that day. You battled the hardest. You might tell me right now, he's going to make a joke. He's going to say, I was fine. I was, making him feel better or something. But you battled hard to finish that half.
I actually thought that is one of my worst races in the sense that I had tried a lot harder before in my life than that day.
Yeah,
anyways.
You barely trained. So, Claude, you did 3 ultras when you were 12, 13, 14. Your best time was 9 hours and
9 hours and 14 minutes.
9:14 to do 50 miles. I believe my time for my 50 miler that I did in Houston was 9:14. I'm pretty sure that was
okay, wait a minute. Then I'm off because you ended up beating me by
or did I beat
by
you?
half a dozen minutes.
Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know what my time was.
Yeah.
Maybe I did 9:08. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you're right. I did 9:08.
But it was so funny. If we have time here,
Yeah.
You guys were always laughing at me in the old days.
Whoever laughed at you for doing a 50 mile?
Saying, 9:24, whatever my time was. It was around 9:20, plus or minus a few minutes. And then
you're wrong on this. You're wrong on this. I've never, ever made fun of that accomplishment, ever.
Well, okay. Anyways, that it's not important on my story. My story was I was laughing at you when you did was it the Houston? Where did you do the 50?
Yeah, I did a 50 miler in Houston. I added a couple miles because I got lost, but anyways, yeah, I did a
Okay.
50 miler in Houston.
And I always remember when you called me after, because I wasn't there with you that day, and you told me, I don't know, maybe it was just to make me feel good, but you said, I was at mile 47, 48, and I said, you know, I can't let my dad have beaten me. Like, I need to hurry up to finish to beat him. Anyways, I thought that was funny.
Oh, I don't remember that, but I believe that I certainly would have thought that. But
Yeah.
I'm almost in disbelief. Like I almost don't believe your time because like I trained a lot. I ran the entire thing.
Yeah.
I ran the entire thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it
And
wasn't
he
the
was
hills.
12.
Well, you would have been
12.
14 by the time you.
No. When I
14?
did the 9:20, I was 14 by then.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
But you were still walking quite a bit, weren't you?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'd say that I ended up walking about 25% of the way, but mostly at the beginning to conserve energy.
Right.
And in all my marathons, I always ran the last 10 miles nonstop and passed tons of people.
Yeah, and you
Nobody ever passed me on the last 10 miles.
Yeah. Well, you and I are similar in that because I usually do strong finishes in my races, and maybe that's where I get it from. Like I think of that day I passed a ton of people in Lake Placid at my Ironman. I passed a bunch of people, but like that is an unbelievable time for 50 miles as a 14-year-old. Like I'm blown away that you were actually able to do that. And
it's in the archives at La Liberté.
Yeah, no, I know. I found your photo, but I never found your time.
Yeah.
I looked through the archives. I wasn't able to find your time.
Yeah.
But like it's an unbelievable time because I know what it took me to do a 9:10 or whatever I did. I ran 32 miles on a treadmill at the office here on a Saturday, and I did 18 miles on a Sunday. I did regular weeks of 100 plus K. Leading up to that, I trained so much, and I did well. I was one of the top finishers. I'm just such an impressive run that you did, Claude, as a kid. It's so impressive. So impressive. And I never, ever in my life, I was always proud of you. I would tell people, hey, my dad won a race when he was 14. My dad finished, and I would make up the details if I didn't know them. But no, I was always very, very proud of the fact that you ran. I remember the photo of you on Minoc Albert's shoulders, and they put that in the Carillon or in the Liberté.
Front page,
and they were celebrating your time as a 14-year-old kid wearing rubber boots, and I think you were wearing a dress shirt or whatever you were wearing. I don't know.
I forget what I was wearing.
But like, I think of the hydration and nutrition, the plan, the personal strength, the coaching that I had. You had none of that. I had $1,000.
Well, they had no aid stations at all.
Yeah, so Papa Jerry my grandpa would drive by and give you.
Yeah, he spent the night, and he would come, every 4 or 5 miles and bring water, and there was no Gatorade in those days, so it was basically water, and he had those special chocolate bars. They call them energy bars, but it was something else in those days. But anyways,
they were probably just chocolate bars, right?
It could be. It could be.
Like just a Snickers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And do you remember what else you were eating, like on the 50 miler?
No, I don't remember eating anything.
They probably thought you're going to get cramps. You can't eat. But do you remember how much you
belief in those days? Yeah.
Did you drink a lot of water back then?
I don't remember.
Yeah, but your dad would, like, the race started at midnight, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
midnight.
That? And your dad would follow you, park for a few miles, take a nap.
Yeah, like he didn't follow me all the way because don't forget, in those days, we were running on highways, and we did 2 years on 59 highways, started from St. Malo, and then the last year started from the broker because the broker guys were killing everybody. Like we've had 7 of the top 10 finishers.
Yeah, the broker guys were very strong runners, right?
Yeah. So we're running on the shoulder, and there's the traffic was never blocked, right? Like, there was no, you're on your own kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if my father followed me, he had to find a driveway somewhere, where he could park on the side and that kind of thing.
And then you would see his truck somewhere on a driveway, and you
Well,
would
it
go.
was dark. No, he would come out and
Okay, he'd
I
see
forget.
you.
I forget. But he was there for me.
But you failed the first year. You said you failed. It was a blizzard, if I recall, right?
Yeah, it was. April 28th, 1963, and we had a surprise snowstorm that night.
And you were 11 years old.
Yeah. So
and you tried to run.
Well, I remember running against the wind in snow, and then when I got to there was a major intersection there, and my dad was there. I hadn't seen him all night. That time he wasn't there, and so then when I saw him, of course I started crying, and I want to quit.
And you said, "Take me home," or what?
Yeah, I said, "Take me home," and I quit.
Yeah, made you stronger for the next year, though. And I remember you telling us a story about how, like, maybe you don't want to tell this one, but how, like, your mom was, she didn't want you to, didn't want you to run, and your dad would pretend you guys were going to work or something at the farm or something, and
that was the first one. She said, "No, you're not." I had asked, and it wasn't like today. Everybody knows what that is, and when my dad told her that he wants to run 50 miles, and she said, "Are you crazy? Like, no, he's 10 years old." I was 10 that year, and she said, "No, he's not running." And I told my dad, like, "No, I want to run." Like I was like a little kid, right? Like,
because your older brothers were running in this race.
No, I didn't have any. My older brothers were not running. They came after.
Oh, they came after. I thought they were the first ones.
No, I was the first, and then I did the second one by myself, and then the third one, my third and fourth ones, my two brothers ran.
Gil and Amy, and Gil finished like fourth or something.
Second overall.
Well, do you remember what his time was?
He was like
sub 9, probably
8.5 hours or under 9 hours.
Wow, another good time.
But he ran it all the way.
So impressive.
Yeah.
So impressive.
Yeah.
So impressive. And Mom, I think was Pepe involved in that, or am I mistaken? Pepe, your dad?
Yeah, Dad did walk that 50 miler as well.
Yeah.
He didn't train though. He just said, "Oh, I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna walk it." And he did. It took him like 12 hours or something. But yeah.
But even that 12 hours, like that's still 4 miles an hour.
It's a walk. Yeah, walk fast.
Yeah. So that's a fast pace. Like that's almost a jog, right? Like it's a very fast pace. So he walked it, and was this around the same time? Because they only had this race for a while, right?
They
I
had
think it was the third year.
Yeah.
And Mama, and then they, like, if I recall, some guy died, right? And then they had to cancel the race.
Yeah, they canceled it the last year. The guy had a good time. He was right ahead of us, and
well, people used to go out and not train and just show up and think they could run 50 miles, and they would. And there was the one guy who.
Most of those guys were rural guys, farm boys.
They were fit. They were healthy. They were fit, but it's a different ballgame. 50 miles, like 26 miles is an obscene amount. 13 miles is tough.
Yeah, they were determined. And coming back to Annette's father doing it in 12 and a half, one thing that nobody ever says is my first year, it took me 12 and a half hours. My first year when I was 11 years old.
Before you quit?
No. I'm not counting the quit. When I completed my first year when I was 11,
I think it was you were 12. Because you said in 63, right? Was the year you quit? So you would have been you would have been
okay. But in 64 it took me, my first time it took me 12 and a half hours.
Okay.
And then my second year about 10 something. And then my last year I had trained, we never trained before. And that's why I was so fit and so good shape. That's why I did that 9:20.
Yeah, that's unreal. You should have probably continued down the path of running in your life.
Well,
I remember you crushing a cigarette at the marathon, and I remember what year that was. I would have been a kid. And you, at Saint Jean Baptiste, you were smoking cigarettes or something, and you went out and ran a marathon the next day.
My 99 marathon, my 2000 marathon, I had practiced quite a bit, and I remember it was the same day as Saint Jean Baptiste in La Broquerie. And I went there. I was feeling great, and I ended up playing baseball the rest of the day.
That was after. Yeah.
After, yeah.
So I ran it that day as well too. That was a Sunday.
Okay.
And I went working at Air Source, Rogers AT&T in the kiosk.
Oh,
at the
yeah,
mall.
you were selling phones, yeah.
I was selling phones, and I saw Mike Keane, one of my all-time heroes, number 12 Montreal Canadiens, and he was there. And I said, "Oh my God, Mike Keane!" He goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I go, "Wow, why are you in town?" He goes, "Oh, I ran the marathon today." And I was like, "Oh, well, how'd you do?" And he goes, "Oh, like 320 something." And he was just in great shape. And here I am, like suffering through a 358.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right. Well, I'll stop that there. That's a good chat. Maybe we'll bring you guys on again at some other time. But I do want to thank those of you that know my parents came to Nice to the World Championships with me. Also came to New York. No, you didn't come to New York. Oh, you were supposed to come to New York. Other Lake Placid, Houston. Anyways, they've been there to support me a lot in my runs and in my experience. I like having them with me because it's fun. They're fun to travel with. So I can't tell you, if you're a runner and if you've never traveled with your parents to one of these races, invite your parents. They're could be a very, very fun time. Plus, sometimes they make meals for you. Sometimes they feed you. Sometimes they take care of you. Sometimes they put blisters on your feet. Sometimes they make it so easy for you to run your marathon. So I wouldn't be anywhere without you guys. So merci. Thank you both. We'll wrap it up there. I want to thank you guys for watching The Running Journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe. If you like this podcast, if you like what we're doing, please give it a 5-star rating. Give it a 5-star rating. Write a review. And if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, send us our way. And again, thank you guys so much. Claude Annette, stay on for 1 sec after I'm done here. But thank you, and we will see you in the next video.